everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Business, brought to you by RealtyNXT. This is Pradhanjali Raval. On this episode of Let's Talk Business, we will talk to Mr. Viral Oza, Chief Marketing Officer, Mahindra Lifespaces. Mr. Oza has 28 years of experience in the field of FMCG, telecom, and media. On today's episode, we will talk about latest trends in marketing that you cannot ignore in 2020. Thank you, Mr. Oza. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Mridhanjali. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with all this digital transformation happening today. Do you think that the role of CMO has to be reinvented?
Reinvented is a bit of a strong word. And what I'd say instead is that let's look at what marketing is about. And if you think about it, what marketing does or what marketing is responsible for, that is still the same. Yeah, it is about building brands. It is about contributing to business. It is about creating consumer experience and loyalty and so on and so forth. I think how marketing does it has changed significantly over the years. And therefore, I would say that the role of the CMO is the same, but how the CMOs have to deliver it has changed significantly. It has changed hugely. And in that sense, yes, there is reinvention needed, but reinvention needed of how CMOs actually work, how they deliver it. And in that sense, yeah, there are 2-3 big areas which I can think of that face CMOs. The first is the impact of technology, right? Now, the impact of technology grows exponentially, but our intuition about the future is not exponential, it's linear, right? And therefore, we need to get comfortable with the thought that the uncomfortable reality might actually happen. Right. And I think that is where the big gap happens in terms of how much life can change, what we have to cope with, and actually how much it changes. Yeah, the last 6 months are great evidence of that. I think the second piece is that there is so much going on about technology, platforms, analytics, data-driven decisions, intuition, and all that it's easy for a CMO to get carried away by the new toy syndrome. And I think therefore what is really critical is that how do CMOs really understand and know what business needs for growth, and then decide what's the best way of getting that, and it may or may not involve technology. So that's another big area that comes up. And I think the third one is also something which has always been there, which is the link of marketing with ROI and business delivery. That link is all the more important now. The expectation was always there. It's just that CMOs are now being held accountable for delivery against this expectation. Right. So those are some of the challenges.
Rightly said. So going forward, what are the latest marketing trends you foresee that we cannot ignore in 2020?
Look, fundamentally, our what was happening is, especially in the last 6 months, there was a certain rhythm through the pendulum of our life. Yeah. And that rhythm has been upset and it's been forced to one extreme. So like all pendulums, it is going to swing back to overcompensate. Yeah. And then settle at another rhythm. And I guess the big question is, where will it settle? What are some of the changes that will stick and what are the changes that will not stick? And things will go back to, not as close to normal, but closer to where it was, so to speak. So I think in that sense, that's the big question, and everybody needs to closely observe how those changes are impacting their category. But having said that, I think there are a few changes which one can be reasonably certain that are going to happen. So I think speaking of real estate as a category, one of them is the re-emergence of it as a asset class. Because more than just the financial angle of it, I think there is the immediate benefits of shelter, well-being, the longer-term security that it provides, and so on and so forth. So I think that is one thing. Even millennials who are in the mode of the whole Uberization of the world, they are now reevaluating their choices and thinking of investing, even if it's a small place, but investing in their own home. Yes. So I think that's one big change. The second and linked to that is, I'd say, the change in the definition of the value of a home. All said and done, so far it was all very rational, very functional about size and price. Is there appreciation happening or not? I think now there is a lot more emotional value attached to it. Yeah, the definition of security is more emotional. The
Yes.
value of the community one is part of is of a very different order. Access to health services, yeah, the definition of what amenities meant now and what they mean today. So I think these are all good changes that form a part of the decision making criteria. um, I mentioned the shifting demographics about millennials. I think another big one from our perspective is the change in the focus on design. As it is, we believe that this is a product that is ready and ripe for innovation. It's there's hardly any innovation being done on the fundamental product or the home design over the last couple of decades maybe, and now with what's happening, there is going to be that focus on design to integrate flexibility, hygiene, usability of the space that we have, especially with work from home happening. While everyone would like a larger home, not everyone can afford one.
Right.
So how do we use space is going to be a big thing. And I think technology will play a big role in that. Another trend could be the potential increase in the use of home appliances. Given the DIY life that, all of us have led in the last few
Yeah.
months, I think there is certainly likely reevaluation of home appliances from luxuries to probably those that provide convenience. So, if penetrations of washing machines and dishwashers, etc., go up, then that again has an implication on, do the homes have the space planned to keep them?
Right.
So there are some of these which I think with a fair bit of certainty one can say are changes to look forward to.
Okay, that's great. So now let's talk about your recent project. You have
Mhm.
recently announced a digital launch of a second project in Palghar,
Yeah.
and within a week you were able to send like 100 houses. So please tell us, what was the strategy behind the same?
So I'm happy to start by saying that in a little over 3 weeks now it's 300.
Oh, that's
Uh,
great.
but I think we've always felt that there is lots to be done in the consumer journey that buying a home involves. Yeah, in their whole path to purchase. There was lots of innovation, a reimagining, so to speak, to be done, and therefore this was something that was already being discussed internally and worked on as to how do we do it. Um, and I think COVID forced us to act on some of these things. Now, if you think about it, at the end of the day, there is a certain shift to digital, the combination of physical and digital that is happening across categories and across spaces. So it was only a matter of time whether when it happened in real estate, and that's something that we kind of picked up on. And work had started. We've partnered with Sell.do, a leading technology solutions provider, and we actually created a complete end-to-end experience, right from when they, whether it's the channel partner calling up the customer or whether they give a lead on our website, right from there all the way through to buying, payment. How do you make it a completely contactless journey, but an extremely immersive one, which gives them everything that they need to know? See, fundamentally, the consumer needs are going to be the same. They still want to know about the product. They need reassurance of what it will look like, what it will feel like, what's that life they will get. Yeah, and as long as that is, provided, in a way, if you think about it, even in the physical world, when they came to the site, the development wasn't ready. The homes weren't there. It was anyway in their mind that they saw the kind of life they would get. So fundamentally, the only difference is instead of sitting in our sales gallery and talking to somebody and getting that, they're sitting in their own home and getting it over a screen. So if one thinks about it, the shift is not too much. It's more in the mind as to where they are experiencing it. And I think that's the hurdle we needed to overcome. And it was and, to be honest, it was a lot of hard work, because it's not like the meetings, customers committed to meetings and they actually fulfilled them. There were a lot of cancellations. We had to go back to them, and then finally they did come, and then they realized what they saw. So one is understanding the journey and what is the change we are making, and doing it with our technology partner, where the complete platform was built. And I think the unique thing about this for us is the fact that we actually owned the development of the platform. Yeah, there have been online launches done in the past, but that's with brands leveraging a third-party platform or an aggregator service. This is the first time that we in India that we've actually owned the entire platform and done it. And there was a complete virtual journey that was planned with all the right inputs, digital walkthroughs. They got to see the development, they got to see the unit, they got to see the location, all of that. I think the big thing that really helped us was the fact that they could even bring in. See, this is a very inclusive process, right? You
Right.
want your parents involved, your children involved, and so on and so forth. And in the current environment, they couldn't really be there. So this process allowed them to pull them in, irrespective of where they were physically, and therefore that ability to get the inputs and actually to take a joint decision was maintained even in these times. And I think that's one of the things that also really worked very well for us. And the fact that they could complete the entire journey from virtual meeting, have conversations, come again and have a look again. So they visit the physical site more than once. They could even do this more than once. And I think that's really what worked in our favor in terms of, one is understanding the complete journey and the change we were expecting them to make. Two is fulfilling all their needs of transparency, of knowledge, of what the development will look like using technology. And thirdly, is completely seamlessly built platform that took them from a virtual meeting all the way through to an online payment process that was completely easy to use and adapt to.
So there's no doubt that acceptance and adaptation of artificial intelligence in real estate industry has been very slow. But
Yeah.
now with the time as COVID-19 has come into picture, it's catching up. So how Mahindra Life Spaces is transforming business with the help of AI?
I mean, in all humility, we have to admit that this was one industry that was even very slow in taking on digital. Yeah, and I don't think it's taken it on the way we are capable of doing it. So it's a journey that we are on. It's not we're not going to get to the end very soon in that sense, because by the time we are doing this, there's, like you said, there's AI, there's ML, and there's a lot more that's already happening. By the time you start using AR, there's VR, and there's XR, and so on and so forth. So I think technology is always on the gallop. And some of these technologies like artificial intelligence, etc., are extremely data intensive. Yeah, and the real value you get out of them is when you have more and more data. So I think while we were always clear that we would invest in artificial intelligence and transform the way business was done, it was about being ready to do it. And I think over the last many months, as our digital journey has expanded, as kind of increased with our customers, we feel that we are now in a position to start this part of that journey, right? And therefore, we will be looking at AI/ML very seriously across various aspects of the business. So, for example, basic business decisions, having data and all the context of various scenarios that we've gone through in the past helps us create what if scenarios in terms of what will impact a certain project in which way. Yeah, be it financially, be it in terms of delays, and so on and so forth. So just by changing some of the scenario levers, you get various outcomes which help you make better decisions. Yeah. Then artificial intelligence for construction sites. I mean, something that we've already started and are in the process of fine-tuning and improving is a project lifecycle management tool, which is powered by artificial intelligence, which has all the data on what happens, what should happen when, etc. And it actually helps us you predict delays and which is a more critical decision to take, including some of the safety issues on some of the decisions, what do you compromise on and what are the impacts of it, and so on and so forth. And from a safety point of view, for example, something we've implemented is all the CCTV feed or from our sites is analyzed real time by an AI engine, which actually then raises an alarm moment there's a potential safety risk. Yeah, it notices where workers without helmets or without the right PPE, without the personal protective equipment, and so on and so forth. So I think that is something that we've already again started doing. It's early days, but then we're looking at AI in the possession process. Handover of a unit is the most emotionally charged moment for a customer. Yeah, they waited for this for a few years, and therefore now that's finally here. And there are certain concerns they have, certain reassurances they need. Yeah, like is the carpet area actually what was promised, for example. So how do we use AI to help them do that on the spot, by way of certain virtual measuring tools and so on and so forth. So even humans have this 3D visuospatial weakness. So when if I tell you that my room is 10 feet by 12 feet, it won't mean much to you because
Right.
you can't visualize it. Even if I show you the room of 10 feet by 12 feet, when it's empty, it might look small and you might go, is this big enough? But actually, when it's filled with furniture, it looks much bigger because the furniture gives it that 3D context.
Right.
Yeah. And therefore, this is something, again, how do we use technology to while it's not so much AI, but certainly how do we use technology to help them see what that apartment would be like, and use that data of what sizes seem the right sizes, what they like, into designing our future homes. So there are a lot of these areas in the whole business value chain where we're looking at using AI.
That sounds really great. So please tell us, like, you have worked in different fields from
Mm-hmm.
FMCG to to now real estate. How different is real estate when it comes to marketing?
Well, every category is different in its own way. Yeah, I mean, it would not be fair to say that they're all there on one side and real estate on the other. But I think there are some aspects in which real estate is very different, and it is on one side compared to all other categories. So, for example, there is no other product in the world for which a consumer takes on a lifelong debt to own.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the kind of commitment a consumer makes to this product category. Yeah, and therefore, given this reality, there is no other category where the consumer, where she will take as much input from others. Yeah, in when making that decision, and therefore everybody is an influencer. Yeah, right from her aunt and uncle who she otherwise never speaks to the in-laws, to the parents, to the brother, and to even that second cousin who's bought a house 6 months ago. And I think that is unique to this category, which is in some cases it's practically a community purchase. Yeah. um, so that's one big reality one has to contend with. I think the other part is, which is a little different from other categories, is consumers have a very similar evaluation criteria for a home. Size, location, views from the home, neighborhood. Some of those are, the criteria list is fairly similar. However, the weightage that they provide to each criteria changes consumer to consumer. So for somebody, size is number one. For somebody, size may be a number four, right? For somebody, amenities is a number five, but for somebody, amenities is a number one. So fundamentally, there is no standard marketing story or a sales pitch that you really can use, for everybody. And therefore, there has to be a significant difference in how the story is crafted, yeah, and how it is delivered through the journey. And that is also done basis the initial conversation and the indications that you get. And that's been a challenge because, like I said, when you're physical, that's easy to do. But when it's virtual, how do you do it?
Right.
And so therefore that of course becomes a very different kind of a challenge of trying to customize your story, customize your pitch to as many consumers as are there. A third I'd say is, real estate brands are product and service brands. Yeah, so in most categories, what happens is either a product or a service that is bought by consumers, they start using it practically immediately. And so the bulk of the experience or the bulk of the evaluation criteria that happens for the brand happens about what they purchased, which is the product or the service. Yeah. In our case, real estate is probably one of the few ones where the product delivery happens after a few years. And therefore, the experience that the consumer has of the brand is on factors that happen between buying and getting the actual product delivery, which is the service. So that's where the service experience becomes a reflection of the brand. And then when the product is delivered, the product experience becomes a reflection of the brand. So actually building a brand here is about building a great service brand and a great product, which is quite different from some of the other categories. Um, and lastly, I'd say is that uh, the purchase, the consumer needs and the purchase criteria remain relatively similar for most categories throughout their life cycle. Yeah, I mean, be it a car or be it a refrigerator, be it any other expensive elements you take, the need and the purchase criteria are roughly similar. In real estate, the consumer needs and the purchase criteria of when a project is just launched are different from when what the needs are and what the purchase criteria are when they are buying a ready to move in unit. So through the life cycle, actually the approach shifts quite significantly on who I'm talking to and how I should talk at the beginning vis-a-vis at the end. And I think that makes it fairly unique and challenging in a good way as a marketer.
It does. It does. So I have one last question for you. Post COVID-19, many real estate developers are exploring the possibility of incorporating co-working spaces in the residential projects to align
Mm.
with work from home realities. Do you think that Mahindra Life Spaces would like to explore some such opportunity, or you have? What are your personal thoughts on this?
So I think we have to some extent already started factoring in how we use space, yeah, and how consumers can use space very differently. Like I said earlier, that everybody would love to afford a larger home, but not everybody can, and therefore it is incumbent on us to ensure that we design homes a little differently. And in that sense, we have already started looking at certain areas which could be not necessarily just work from home, but they can serve as multi-purpose areas, which if you don't want to do work from home, you're not in such a role, that's fine, it can be used for something else. But if you have to, then you do have that opportunity, that option of doing that. And also then there is also the kinds of amenities we provide in the development, right? The
Yeah.
nature of those amenities, how should they change to facilitate some of these changes in lifestyle? And I think those are some of the changes that we've already started incorporating, because we feel that even if not, like I said, the pendulum may not swing into the completely the other end. It will settle somewhere a little off center than it was in the past. Um, even if consumers don't work from home all the time, I don't think they will move completely to office all the time.
Right.
Companies are now a lot more open. They've realized that people can be productive at home also. And therefore, it may be 2 days a week or so that people work from home. But even those 2 days, you need a space. So this is one change that we believe is a useful one to make. And that's something we've already started incorporating in our design.
Thank you so much. Before we
Not at
sign
all.
off, would you like to share something with our viewers?
Basis which is at the heart of everything we do, because it also gives an idea on the challenge we have in keeping them happy. Yeah, I think the insight that we work on is that consumers don't buy a home; they buy the dream of what their life will be like when they move in. And therefore it is for us to bring this life alive as close to reality as possible and well ahead of time than they will actually live in it, so that they are able to get the confidence, the clarity that they are making the right decision. And I think that is something that we seek to do. And I think that is also something that consumers would be happy to get, because it's not an easy decision, it's not a small decision, and therefore the more clarity they get right at the start as to what their life will be like when they live there, would help them make the right decision. Yeah, and I think that's something that I certainly hope we live up to doing to the extent needed.
So thank you so much for the insightful session. It was great. To all viewers of Reality NXT, we will come back with many more brand journeys. For more updates, stay tuned and follow Reality NXT.
Thank you.